Welcome to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller, and my special guests from the Creative Recovery, Andria Evans and John Intig. How are you?
Doing good. How are you, Mike?
Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah.
The Creative Recovery is just started, just kicked off here in the last couple of weeks. And
Yeah, actually, next Friday will be our open house.
which is going to be, where's the location?
551 East Main.
Okay.
We're right there at the corner of Main and North Mount Pleasant, right beside the BP gas station.
Okay. Anybody can come? Just
And, yep, it's for everybody. We want everybody to come in and see what we're doing, get the layout, get a better feel for it.
Talk a little bit about the Creative Recovery, what the program is based on, and how it got started.
Well, it's based on, we do addiction mental health services. So it's outpatient services. Typically, our typical person is someone who has had some kind of a hospitalization. They went into detox, they've done some type of residential program, and as they're leaving the hospital, they're transitioning from this treatment into recovery, where there's less intense professional services, and they're reintegrating back into the community. So we facilitate that transition. We have intensive outpatient services, aftercare, and we also have a housing component for males, if need be. Not everyone we deal with may need housing, but if they do, we offer sober living. And basically, that's just another tool. Often, if you take the person and put them right back into the very same environment that they were in when they began their addictive behaviors, they'll return right to it. So it's kind of good to separate them from the environment and then also have the counseling services. But again, not everyone may need housing. Or it may be someone who's struggling with drinking and just needs to get back on track, get sober and get away from the alcohol.
We talked a little bit earlier about the 4-phase program. Talk about that.
We believe that addiction is a process. Nobody gets up one day and says, you know what, I'm going to go out and become an addict. It just doesn't happen like that. They walk into Kroger's and they say, hey, give me a pound of addiction. Slice it thick, I like it rough. It's not like that. People, they begin this set of behaviors where they're using, and they don't realize that they're addicted until they try to stop. And then they begin having physical symptoms, compulsive cravings, and then the more they try to stop it, they realize they can't. The problem is they then start building this entire lifestyle around using the alcohol or the drug and covering it up. They're really good at covering it up. They say the average person knows at least 4 addicts. You just don't know you know them. They're that good at covering up. And women are far better at it than men. A female can cover up the addiction for years. Where guys, they're a little more boisterous.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
Just like the addiction is a process, so is the recovery. And it starts out, we have different phases of it. In our initial phase, these are people who are just coming out of probably a medically managed hospital or treatment facility. And that's kind of our phase 1, or it could just be the newcomer, but that's our most intense phase at that point. These people are going to be heavily monitored. We'll screen for drugs or alcohol. We're going to really supervise everything they're doing. We're going to basically micromanage their lives for a couple of weeks. And then phase 2, when they get to that point, they've completed some of the more intense services. By then, they're working. They're starting to get a sense of how to build positive social support systems, churches, schools, 12-step programs. So they're building their own sober structure. And it's difficult in today's world because the alcohol is so pervasive, and now the opiates too. It's just part of our society.
A question for both of you, because Andrew, this was your idea to start this, get this going, and you're a social worker and you've got all sorts of degrees. Do you have the level of drug usage today? Did you think we'd ever get this far?
Well, back up, Mike, real quick. So my background is with behavioral health, with youth, with the school districts, things like that. A couple years ago, I had moved to Columbus and started working with the substance abuse addiction, behavioral health there. So with me being in Columbus, I'm always coming back, seeing family and friends and so forth. And I would get approached at family support groups, things like that, of the need in Lancaster, anywhere in this area, Logan, Athens, Perry County. So at that point, I kind of got with John and, told him about what kind of need was here. And there are resources, but they're very limited. So that's kind of how Creed came about. And ended up coming to Lancaster.
So when we talk about the problems today, again, did you think we'd ever get to this level? I mean,
no. Then that's just kind of the process. The way it's gone. We have literally prescribed ourselves into an opiate epidemic. The heroin epidemic has been around since the 70s. You have large cities, Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, just about any major metropolitan area had huge parts of their inner cities devastated by the heroin use starting in the late 1970s. But these were poor inner city, basically minorities, the non-voting public. So as long as the epidemic impacted them, no one cared. But then as the medical community began irresponsible drug prescribing and the opiates came to the rural areas and the suburbs, then it started impacting the wealthy white voters. Now all of a sudden it's an epidemic. The problem's been going on for decades, but we prescribed, and it's drugs, it's a market. The market will go where the need is. The people in the suburbs, the rural areas, they developed a taste for this market through the medical community and irresponsible prescription of drugs. A lot of treatment centers today believe that you can prescribe your way out of the problem, which to me is fixing the problem with the problem. It's very devastating.
I interrupt. You were at step 2, and there's 4 steps. Talk about step 3 and 4.
So at step 3, step 2, they're working. They're getting back to work. They're developing good sober support. They're basically, we're shifting the structure and accountability from us to them through different phases. At step 3, very lightly supervised. These are people who may only be seeing a counselor once or twice a month. They're really doing some kind of a Celebrate Recovery or a 12-step program or something along those lines. They're involved in some type of a fellowship, and they begin developing this positive social network. Addiction is very social. It's a social disease. And the important tool with like recovery housing is it's not okay to use there. before the social circle they were in, to fit in, you had to use. That's what all my friends do. That's what
Okay.
everyone I hangs out with. When you get into recovery housing, it's not okay to use. To fit in, you have to not use. So we're changing how they interact in the community, and the types of friends, the types of people they want to hang out with, and that shifts over the phases. So by phase 3, they're rarely going to see a professional. They're pretty much doing everything on their own. By the time they get to phase 4, they wouldn't have hardly any professional supervision at all. It's all peer supported. They're doing it on their own then. They may not be where they're totally self-reliant. They still may need assistance in one way or another. But for the most part, it's a little bit of case management, just linking them up with what they need. They're doing everything on their own.
We talked about people coming out of a hospital situation, or can families refer family members? Or
Absolutely.
is
Absolutely, yeah.
And then my next question to that is that something that they rarely accept? Oh, no, I'm okay, I don't have a problem.
Yeah, both ways.
Okay.
The family will usually see the problem before the person who has the problem.
Okay.
They'll see the shift in it. But how to address it, then that's where you get into it, because it's tough. You know, no one wants to tell their child or their spouse, you know, you can't come in here. But then every time they do, you know, things come up missing, money's missing, fights, arguing. There's just all kind of dysfunction in the home. So we strive to get the families heavily involved. And Andrea, if you call, the family members typically call.
What phone number they could call? Or
The
website?
614-404-6008. Or you can just Google the Creator Recovery,
Okay.
and it'll pull it right up.
And that's on Main Street. What was the address again?
Main, 551 Main,
Okay. Is it
East Main.
by appointment, or can people walk in, or?
But we prefer an appointment,
Okay.
so that way we know you're coming and somebody will be there. We're not with someone else.
Okay.
We have a very small staff right now, just starting out. But family members who call in, Andrea's a big piece of the family work. She deals with family members. That's her daily.
It's got to be
thing.
difficult. I mean, it has to be
Absolutely,
difficult.
because you have mom and the spouses, or, you know, we've even had kids bring their parents to us. You know, it can go the opposite.
Wow.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
dad's been drinking for 30 years, and, you know, now we're raising our kids, and we can't take care of our parent. So it goes the other way. You hear a lot about, you know, especially with the foster care and everything,
Sure.
and all these kids being, you know, put in foster, but it does go occasionally the other way, absolutely. So, you know, they're calling, they're crying, you know, they're desperate. So, you know, we try to do the best we can, whether it means they're sitting in my office for an hour just with the parents or the family members, you know, whatever needs to be done to do that. So
Is this covered through insurance, or is this how does it? If someone wanted to refer somebody, or
The housing component, if you want the housing component, we have to have a housing fee for that. We have to keep the lights on. It's not like we're trying to make any money on that.
Sure, yeah.
We just want to, you know, we understand for some people that's something that they're going to have to do. For the counseling services that we offer, we accept just about any insurance. And if I have space in the groups that I'm doing, I do scholarship people in.
okay,
So if you don't have any insurance, or I can get them linked to someone who does have a space. So we're very good at working with people. Money isn't our purpose in doing this. Our purpose in doing this is that we live in the community. We own the property. We don't rent. We have children in the school systems. So this is for the community that we live in.
Right. Another question I had, workplace, employee assistance, is that part of the program too? If an employer calls you and says, you know, boy, we're having a problem with this, is that something you guys?
Absolutely. I we're just new, so I haven't really developed a network with employee assistant programs or employers, even if you don't have an official program. But I think it's hugely important. One of the biggest reservations, Mike, I had was starting a housing program in the Lancaster area was the employment issue. And it wasn't until after I spoke with several large employers in the area, and they said, you know, the biggest problem that we have is our insurance requires us to have drug testing. So we have to have pre-employment drug screenings. And there's only about 60% of the people we make a job offer to that even show up for the pre-employment drug screening. And of the 60% that show up, only about half of those people pass it. So, you know, being able to get past that pre-employment drug screening is the big issue. So there are a lot of employment options around here. But in the same vein, if you've had an employee, you've invested time and money and you've trained them and they're a good worker, but then all of a sudden, you know, you start seeing that they're missing work, calling in sick, perhaps showing up smelling like liquor or impaired by drugs on the job. It doesn't really make a lot of financial sense to get rid of that employee and then have to go through this gambit of, okay, I want to get a new guy, I got to train.
Right.
And so we would rather work with employers and at least give their employees who are having issues an opportunity to get back on track. And so I think that's very key to work with some of our employers in the area so they can maintain what's going to be best for their business.
When you first talked about this or started this, is this the first phase? Is there going to be an addition down the road? Or?
You know, I would love to open a women's transitional housing or maybe just phase 4. Kind of like the veterans that have been through the program, that have graduated through all of our outpatient, that you know, can stay on board, be role models, things like that. Anyone that goes through our program knows that the first person, the new person coming in, is by far the most important. They're just now getting into recovery out of treatment. You know, whatever they need, that's our most important person. So as our phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 people, they know they need to reach out for that newcomer because they remember what it was like when they were in that phase and when they just got out and how hard it is. You know, that nobody comes to us because they're having a good day. Right. You know, they're going to have hard days, you know.
The housing is for males only.
Currently, yes.
But you also accept females.
For outpatient
services.
Yeah.
Now, talk to me a little bit about the structure of that. Is this a group environment or is this individuals? Or?
Yes, we will have intensive outpatient groups in the evenings, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from like 6 to 9. And then in the day, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from like 9 in the morning to noon, just depending on, you know, the work schedule that people have and demand, you know, how many people we need to serve. So we will do those groups at an intensive level. In between there, we haven't really nailed a spot down, but we will do like one group a week just for outpatient. And in between all that, we schedule individual sessions. So if someone needs to come in, you know, for an individual session.
Right.
And then the third Tuesday of every month at 6 o'clock in the evening is just our open family session. And it could be, you know, this is for the family. Right. Families of people who have had either, it could be mental health or it could be addiction, either way. Right. We deal with work. I'm a therapist. Mental health issues and addiction hold hands. if it's not substance-induced depression, you know.
Quick tips for maybe grandparents or parents, for youth or for adults, that whether there's something wrong but I can't put my finger on it, something they could be watching for, whether they're missing appointments or not going to school.
Behaviors is
yeah.
number one red flag. You know, like you said, if they're missing work, things coming up missing, addicts and alcoholics, all of the above, love to isolate. All of a sudden they're not coming to family functions, or they're only making an appearance and they're leaving to hurry up and get back to, you know, using or so forth, you know. That's one of the huge things in our recovery housing. We make sure that there's no isolation. You know, there's no TVs in the bedrooms to go up and they have roommates. That's pretty much where they lay their head down and go to sleep. We want them, you know, downstairs going to meetings, looking for work, going to work, doing their treatment, having a sense of community. Once a month, we do outings. You know, a lot of these guys they've been, you know, using since they were 12, 13, 14. They have no idea how to live life and have a good time without a substance. So, you know, the sense of community is very huge for us, to make sure they lean on each other.
Websites, we talked about the phone number. You have an open house coming up. We'll talk about that. But do you have a website or?
Yeah, if you Google the Credo Recovery, it'll take you to the credorecovery.com. But we're on Google for directions, and then it also will link you to the website, or depending on your browser, you might go directly to the website. But it's the credorecovery.com.
And when's the open house again?
Next Friday, September 1st, from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock.
And just show up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll
Come
have
on in.
food and take a tour, sit down with our staff, any questions, you know.
That would be interesting. That would be an interesting concept, just to see what the whole program's about. And again, tell me how this started. You just thought, or both of you thought?
There was such a need.
Well,
in
yeah,
this
I have a
area.
background. I've been building like transitional housing, and I have extensive experience working with as a residential treatment counselor, with an outpatient treatment counselor, working with a addiction medicine doctor and the counseling end of it. So I had an extensive background. This would actually be like the fourth program that I've helped get up and running. So Andrea saw the need here, and she's like, John, you need to do what you do in Lancaster. And she had been on me for this for quite a while. And I really had reservations, everything I had done in Columbus. And I seen the need, but I didn't know if it would work. And one I said was the employment option. And then finding a location. So little by little, we've kind of chipped away at our barriers, you might say it. And so we're here. But yeah, Andrea was really the driving force behind it. And also the entire Arnett family, you know, getting this thing off the ground and running, were, you know, very instrumental, hugely supportive. And so a lot of thanks to them, you know, for the efforts they've done.
Well, we'll get you back on after the open house, because I know when I was coming on, I had people that were asking, where is this at? When's it going to be? And I said, well, we'll have it on YouTube here later on this afternoon. But we just have a few minutes left. Again, website, phone numbers, open house is next Friday. Any information that you want to get out to the people? Just stop by whenever you can.
Yeah, come by and see what's going on. If you're having a problem, or if you think you're having a problem, or even if you're not, you just want to know. I will say that I do a lot of outreach. I attend a lot of activities, and what I'm getting here in the Lancaster area is people are really going out of their way to educate themselves. And they are. And when you're trying to deal with a loved one who may have an addiction or is struggling with mental health, a lot of people are at a loss about how to approach it. And it can be a very delicate situation. You know, emotions can fly very quickly. And so that's one purpose of our family meeting on the third Tuesday of every month. Come in and see us, you know, talk to us, maybe we can help identify. There's so many variables in
Sure.
these situations. It's really hard to throw a blanket over everything. But come in and see us, talk to us, call Andrea, 614-404-6008. Call Andrea, she's a wealth of information, has a lot of links. We did recently just talk to a girl who's opening up a program for females. I don't know, that's probably going to be several weeks away yet, but it's on the way. We'll be working with them and helping them develop counseling services
Fantastic.
for that.
Just a few minutes, actually just a few seconds left. Open house next Saturday, or next Friday, 1 to
6.
1 to 6, and it's 551 East Main Street.
551 East Main, right beside the BP. A lot of parking in
Okay.
the rear.
Yeah, parking room.
Just come right around behind the BP, where the big yellow house and the big yellow building in the back. Our office is in the back.
Fantastic.
So come on around and see us.
Well, Andrea, John, we appreciate you coming in. Again, it's the Creative Recovery open house next Friday, 1 to 6. We just appreciate you guys coming in, and we'll get you back on and we'll talk some more about it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Pleasure being here.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. And remember, until we meet again, let's make a difference.